righty, welcome into the Whatcom County Football Podcast. It's episode 48. I am your host, Ryland Spencer of Cascadia Preps. Along with me is Tyler Anderson of Whatcom Preps. And our special guest tonight is Lynden Christian's all-time winningest head football coach, Dan Kaemingk. Coach, welcome to the show.
Hey guys, good to be here with you. Enjoy hearing what you've done in the past, and just hopefully you don't crush me tonight. We'll see how it goes.
Well, Coach, tomorrow we always record this about 5 days early. Tomorrow is supposed to be state championship day here in the state of Washington. You're obviously fairly familiar with those things. What have you been doing this year to keep busy on Friday nights?
Well, yeah. People ask me that a lot. Of course, you know, those first 3 Friday nights were about as beautiful a day as you could possibly have. I'll be honest with you. I think Coach Bob Ames would have told you the same. For us, that part in front of that game, that all day long you're at school and people are asking you questions like, how's the game going to go, blah, blah, blah. So they just keep bringing it up, right? So right up to that thing, I mean, that is a nervous time. I think, you know, you think about all the bad things that can happen to you tonight. Right. But then once that whistle blows and you kick that ball off and you look up in the stands on a September night or even late October or even like tonight, fellas, walking home. I mean, it's just so beautiful to go out there on a Friday night. So I miss that. So how do I get my fix? Right. So this is pretty pathetic, but I have some Midwestern ties. I went to college there. My oldest son is there, and I've got to know some people there. And I knew a kid who was a senior on a team in Orange City, Iowa. And his dad knew that I wasn't doing anything, so he would send me the link. And so I'd watch the game, right? And how pathetic am I? I'm watching like 1A football in Iowa, and I'm breaking down what the defensive end is doing here on this read option. And, you know, it's just, I think you're a junkie all the time. So you do those X's and O's. Your wife kind of looks at you and kind of asks you, aren't you going to go away or do something because you're in my presence all the time. So that's kind of an issue. But yeah, you know, we've been really busy with school because we've been in person the whole time. So that has kept me really busy. But those Friday nights, I tell you what, and then when I found myself really kind of cranky that next week coming back to Washington from the Midwest, having watched all these games, because I watched a game on Friday night. I watched a high school game, and then I went to a college game the next day. Zach Sipman was playing, and Levi Cordice and Jackson Corkle, some kids that played, so I was able to watch them play the next day. And really thankful for the opportunity, but kind of missing it, fellas. I mean, I know you guys are junkies. You got to be missing it too. So that's been tough. So, you know, and I was talking to Tyler. It's a year ago tonight that we were all going to bed, putting our heads on the pillow, and tomorrow going to go play Royal in the state championship. So it's kind of crazy to think it was that long ago, but on the other hand, it just kind of seems like yesterday. So thankful for the opportunity to do it. And when it's taken away from you, you're even more thankful.
Coach, you mentioned some kids playing college football over in the Midwest. You mentioned names. Can you give me, are they all at the same college?
Well, I have 5 kids in the last couple of years that have matriculated out to the northwest part of Iowa. Affiliated with our school, there's 2 Christian colleges there. One is Dordt University, and that's where Zach Sipma went, and Jackson Corkle and Levi Cordice. And then about 10 miles away at my alma mater, where I played, is Northwestern College. And they're the same size, and it's 2 Dutch communities. And, dude, they get after it. I mean, it's like Lynden Christian. I mean, it's fun to watch. And I've got Simon Anker there. So he played for me 2 years ago. And then Davis Gatterman was one of our inside backers. And so I have 5 kids over there. So I was able to watch 3 of them play. And then I just drove 10 miles over to Northwestern. And then I wasn't able to watch Simon and Davis play, but I was able to kind of see them there. So that was good. So, yeah, some kids have got out the last few years and been able to kind of take it to the college level, which is cool to see.
So 1981 graduate?
Yeah. Leather helmets and everything back then. Yeah, we kind of go.
I was born 2 years later.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
But then you went out to Iowa to play NAIA football, correct?
Correct, yes.
And you won a national championship in the Tacoma Dome, right?
Well, Mr. Research is here. Well done. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Tyler.
You know, that was, way to go. You just take the credit, Ryland. That's fine. That's really interesting because, it was so different back then because, you guys know these kids have these signings now, right?
Yep.
And all my thing was on a Sunday night, I got home from church and the phone rang and it was somebody I didn't know. And he said, "You want to play college football?" And I said, "Yeah." And I hung up and my mom and dad looked at me and says, "Yeah, I'm going to go play college football at Northwestern." Now, Tyler, Galen, you remember Galen, my cousin,
Right.
he had been there 4 years before. So he had told the coach that it's not like Lynden Christian was some powerhouse that we were just turning out athletes at the time. I believe,
Yeah.
I remember that first day at college, everybody introduced himself, every freshman, and this kid was 10-0, he was 8-1, and I'm like, and Kaemingk 2-7, and they all turn around like, well, who recruited this guy, right?
Right.
So, yeah, I got out there. My mom and dad never saw a game because it's just, that wasn't something you would do back then. They were farmers. But then my junior year, I can remember sitting in the locker room in Missouri. We had won the semifinal, and they said that PLU had won the bid because that's what you do. You bid on how much you can for the game, and we were going to go to the Tacoma Dome and play. And all the other guys were like, "Tacoma Dome, what's that?" And I was like, this is the greatest moment ever. And I was able to come home, play in front of my parents, win the national championship, play against Frosty Westering, who just playing in that game influenced my entire coaching career because I had come off a game that had been really negative from a trash talking standpoint. The PLU guys legitimately would pick you up and tell you great job. They would legitimately be happy for you if you made a play. It wasn't an act. And we couldn't get over these guys. They were amazing. So a real positive experience, an opportunity to win a national championship. Next year I was able to come back again. We went to McMinnville and we're ahead 22-3. We're sizing ourselves for that second ring. And then Linfield went on a 30-0 run and we got beat 33-22 in my last college game. So interestingly enough, we went to camp there a couple years ago. They've got the paper clipping from that game in the coach's office. So I was really happy to be able to relive that again. But, guys, such a positive experience. And, then I coached for a couple years there, and that's really what got me into coaching. I don't know if I'd have been a coach if I'd have just graduated and decided to get into teaching, but going back and coaching a couple years in college kind of gave me that mindset. So, yeah, it was a great run. It was so fun to come home and play in front of my parents. And the, icing on the cake is to win a national championship at any level. It's
Sure.
really exciting.
So, Coach, after that, you get this opportunity to come back as a 27-year-old to be a head coach at your alma mater and walking into a really nice situation where you were talking just earlier about when you play, Dan Kaemingk 2-7. But in the mid '80s, there was this big surge that Coach Van Holzen got Lynden Christian to a state championship game in 1986, and it just there was something about, we're not just a basketball school anymore, and football is starting to become a pretty big deal, and you're offered the job in 1990, take over a pretty good squad. Tell us what that was like.
Well, culture is such an interesting thing, right? I think there's great young coaches all over, state of Washington, wherever you are, but some of them are just blessed enough to walk into a situation where they feet on the ground. Because to be honest with you, Tyler, I mean, when you're 27 and you get that first job, you have no idea. I remember we were going to go play Bob Ames at Meridian, right? And we were going to go down there, and it was like right before the game, and one of my coaches looked at me and he says, "What are we going to do in goal line situation?" I went, "Oh, man, I never put in a goal line situation." So before we get on the bus, I'm putting in goal line thing, right? So I walked into a great situation. The kids just felt like they should win when they hit the field. And I don't know how many points that is worth, but that is worth some points. So I walked into a staff. Gary left. He came to me. He said, "I would like you to be the guy." I went and interviewed. They were idiots. They gave me the job. I walked into it. I retained the entire staff. So I kept the offensive coordinator. I kept the offensive line coach. I had 2 JV coaches that I had played with that had just instilled this nitty-gritty toughness. And I just benefited from it. Have I grown as a coach since then? Surely. But had I walked into a situation that was not so cultivated and perfect for me, who knows what I would be doing today, right? I got a really good start. And then once that happened, then the kids start believing in what you're doing. The community starts believing in what you're doing. And it just went from there. And so I think about that a lot, just how fortunate I was to walk into a great situation and then just did my best not to screw it up going from there.
Coach, watching, you were able to get me a lot of film of those days, especially back in the 90s. And it's been so fun watching them. And there's 4 things that I've come up that I call the Lynden Christian staples, okay, of the 90s. So,
Okay.
and tell me if this is something that like is just like your thing.
Stunting. The first one ugly football coach or what?
No. Here we go. Stunting inside linebackers.
Yeah, we tend to do that.
Punting away from the returner.
Never punt to their best player, Tyler. Why would you ever punt to their best player?
Fullback wheel.
Yeah, well, we try to slide him out every once in a while. Sometimes he gets his head around, and sometimes it hits him in the ear hole.
And and a lot of games, it looked like you started out on offense in twins to maybe look at to see if they're playing man or zone. And it seemed like those 4 things were just like these staples that I came across of. And it's just like, is anyone noticing this? Why isn't anyone doing these things? Because it worked for you guys.
I hope not. It's interesting how you just kind of, like I have a bunch of assistants now who played for me. Right. And they tell me a couple things. One, I'm way softer than I was when they played. They act like we were running 40s all day long with trees on our backs. I mean, they just, every day they're like, Coach, you used to kill us back in the day. Right. And so that's the first thing. But the second thing is we would bring the house. I mean, Meridian and us, I spent a lot of time in those younger days watching what Bob would do. And I think Bob would watch what I would do. And so game film was really important to me if it was Meridian playing the opponent, because we had kind of, I think we were really affected by that early 90s Husky thing, where they had, none of us had Steve Empman at tackle, obviously, but we all put in this defense, and it was the attack and get after. And so I tell you what, there was a long period of time there where I would just look at my corners and say, you got to hang in there for about 2.5 seconds. If we're not home by then we're done. Now, if you watch us now, with the advent of the spread and all the smart things that coaches do now, you got to be a little more selective about that kind of thing, almost to the point of a read blitz here or there. If you get this look, you go. If you don't, you know what I mean? Yeah. But you'd be surprised how much we don't bring people now. Right. And that's another thing my coaches say. They go, I cannot believe that a Dan Kaemingk defense dropped 8 people on that on that set, right? Because and and that's the beauty and what I love about the game is unless you're willing to just constantly learn. I mean, Kurt Kaemingk, God bless him. Kurt would call me and he'd come watch a game if he didn't have a game on the same night, and then he would just pepper me with questions about what we were doing. Well, what's Kurt Kaemingk asking me about what we're doing? We're all wanting to know what Kurt Kaemingk is doing. Sure. But I'll tell you what, that guy always wanted to learn. Yeah. And I think that's kind of what you would see with any older coach. They've been willing to change. They've been willing to learn. They've been willing to listen to their staff members. And so Tyler, me, you, and Ryland, I'm just going to be honest with you. My desire is to bring the house and just pound on people. But it just doesn't make sense. Offenses are too good now. They can see what you're doing. They can kick it out to that wide receiver on a screen. And now you've brought everybody and you're in a load of trouble. So it's changed. We're comfortable with what we do now, but I can't disagree with many of those 4 things you just said.
Yeah.
Coach, I think the most amazing thing in this is that Tyler's a little bit better of a scout than I was expecting. Oh. I mean, the fact that he came up with that stuff.
I'm always worried that people are going to call Tyler instead of watch the film. That's my biggest concern.
Well, hey, Coach, 1997, you guys win a state championship over Colfax. You entered the playoffs, though, with 3 losses. And really quickly, one of the things Tyler mentioned was about not kicking it to their returner. Mm-hmm. Do you realize that you guys hold the state tournament record, or excuse me, the state championship game record for the longest punt return surrendered?
Oh, I believe it. Yeah, that would have been. I believe it. Well, what do you think fosters this attitude of me? I mean, my punters know, do not kick it down the middle. Now, sometimes you have teams that you're just glad you somehow got rid of it, so you don't care where it goes. But if we can actually control that, we're to the corners. I mean, we never do. But you go down, you're in the dome, you're playing a good Colfax team. You're asking yourself, if we play these guys 10 times, can we get them 3, maybe 4, right? But you go in there with a plan. You like your plan. You go 3 and out. You kick it down the middle. He houses it back the other direction. And now you're like, okay, well, so much for that. And then you block the extra points. You get a little bit of momentum back. And, the interesting thing about this, I have a brother-in-law who played on that team. And his kids just roll their eyes every time he talks about this team. But, I'm sure they all wanted us to win the state championship last year. But really, part of them is also like, yeah, but we're still the only team that's ever won. So this year, they give me a call. They give the offensive coordinator a call. They say, we're going to watch the game film. You got to come over. And we went over there and watched it with these. They don't look like they could run 40s anymore. I mean, they don't look like they're getting anywhere quick. But, man, they were talking big about that game. And you're watching that and just really, it's a game we controlled after that all the way till about halfway through the fourth. And then they score, and then we had to come up with some sort of, pseudo miracle to win that game. But there's nothing cooler than kicking the field goal right as the clock runs out, and then that's the game. I mean, you guys know I've lost some really hard ones, but that was a pretty cool way to get off the field and win a state championship. So thankful for that moment.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's especially fun when it's a championship of any sort involved. I mean, league championship, anything. If you
Anything.
end it with one guy lined up to kick it, I mean,
Yes.
it doesn't get a whole lot better than that.
And we hadn't kicked a field goal all year. So,
Right.
Really? in essence, it was an extra point. But you're looking out there, you're going, how's this going to go? Because we already had one blocked. But then I got Greg Dykstra holding. Well, if Greg Dykstra is holding, I'm pretty confident the hold's going to be fine. And Robbie Dykstra kicking, and snap, hold, boom, 3 points, we win. And we're just running. It's one of the coolest videos ever there, because that was back in the day where KVOS used to follow us everywhere. And they were so awesome about it. And they would have those sideline shots, and he put it to music, and the helmets are flying, and Kaemingk looks young. He's running out there with the rest of them, and oh man, I get goosebumps just thinking about it. It was such it's such a cool thing to happen to us. And you're right, Ryland. I mean, that's a year we went in with 3 losses, probably hardened by the fact that we played some really good 2A, because it was a 1A, 2A deal that year, where I believe, Tyler would correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Baker was 2A, Meridian was 2A.
Yeah.
And so we got beat by both of them in really good games. But really, you're kind of thinking, and we think the same way today. If we can get through our league, we figure we get to the state, okay, we're going to be ready. And that was certainly the case that year.
Trust me, I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus, but as a member of the seating committee, I fought for you guys the last couple of years. So
yeah, it was interesting the last couple of years. Last year I went, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, but hey, that's all right.
Well,
you got to prove it on the field.
Especially last year, the hard thing was there's so many teams that were undefeated. And what I think a lot of people don't realize is, with the round, I say round robin, but with you guys playing home and home last year, it was almost like you and Baker were both undefeated going into the state.
Oh, sure.
So,
sure. I mean, I think Lep and I, we can get together and we can talk it through. And by the end of the night, we come out of it pretty good. Like, we feel like we were a little better than we were seeded. But, that first game against Cascade Christian last year, that was scary because that kid could sling it.
Oh, yeah.
And then that was a good LaSalle team. I mean, I tell you guys, that was, other than Royal, they were the best team. And then Deer Park was just one of those games where you had to win it ugly and managed to do it. So, ultimately you look back and say, okay, we beat 3 undefeated teams and almost got that 4th undefeated team. So it was quite a run. I think we earned it, but it was sure a lot of fun.
And if you're going to lose to a team, Wiley Allred coach team isn't
Yeah, Wiley's a dude, man. I tell you what, those guys and offense. I mean, I could not believe how much offense they have. I mean, we had to, you know how you get your 10 or 11 scout plays? Well, I'm up to like 30 and 31 over here, and I'm only about halfway through a bunch of their games. And then, of course, we get to the game, and they line up in punt formation, but we don't know what their punt formation is because guess what, fellas? We got no punts on any of these scouting films. Oh, by the way, their best receiver is their punter. Oh, there he goes running. I wonder why we didn't have that scouted. So,
Yeah.
no, Wiley is a dude. We see him down at Eastern Washington. So we've kind of been able to kind of play them down there. You know, what you get from that program is just that's a class group of guys, and their kids are all business. They really are. You know, nobody's popping off. Nobody's whooping it up. They just like, okay, I scored. That's what I'm supposed to do. And really decent bunch of fellas. And so it was a fun championship game to kind of match wits and match teams with him. It was a good game.
I'll give you a quick story, Coach. We do a camp out there every year with Royal, with the Russell Wilson QB Academy.
Mm-hmm.
And their quarterback 2 years ago, he milked some cows in the morning, came and worked out with us, milked some cows again, got a quick nap, did a team workout, lifting and running, and then came and worked out again with us for 2 or 3 hours, went home, got a couple hours of sleep, woke up again and started milking cows and went about his day. And that was...
Well, yeah, and it's an agricultural community, and those kids know how to work. They just do. And you can kind of tell. And last year, I mean, Wiley would tell you he was a little surprised with the success they had. But, you know, those guys walk on the field, and it's like worth 14 points. I mean, people are just like, man. And so he had a junior quarterback and a junior wideout, and it's always a Christensen or a Jenks or a, you know, they're just those guys. Was that Jenks that played 2 years ago? Was that the kid?
So there's two Jenkses in a row. There was one that went to Weber State, and then there was his brother that beat Meridian.
Mark and I did that
like
game.
6'6".
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then the two Christensen boys that were on the team last year, they're not even related.
Okay.
And there was actually two Christensens that if you go back about 5 or 6 years, there was two Christensens then. Those two Christensens are brothers to the Christensens that are there now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so there's two lines of Christensens, and they're not even related in Royal.
Well, they threw the ball to each other like they'd known each other their whole lives. So, you know, I mean, those guys were something. But, it was just a really fun game. It really was. And, it's an honor to go up against a guy like that and to kind of do it. And our kids, I was proud of them at the end of the day. You always want to win that game, right? But I was really proud of the way we competed, and nobody had made them even work. And so I would like to think by the end of the day, they had to work. So that was good.
Yeah. Oh, there was a lot of people. You guys surprised a lot of people. I had you guys ranked number 2 coming into the season. And so it didn't totally surprise me that you guys were there. But I think a lot of people going into the playoffs had you guys not even in the picture. I know. To see you guys there, it was pretty cool.
And then you're back, to we all play each other twice. I mean, Lep came to our place early, got us. We go to their place late, we get them. And in essence, it kind of hurts us. I mean, you guys have seen enough high school ball. If you would have went to that game, you'd walk away going, those are got to be 2 of the top 4 teams in the state. But, ultimately it always comes down to the fact you got to earn it on the field. So on that Saturday, was I a little disheartened when we were a 7? Yeah. But then once we got in there and got after it, at the end of the day, I'm like going, sweet. We proved it, and it was really fun. So, yeah.
Just maybe should have had a couple extra home games out of it, right?
That would have been nice. We like playing. We like playing at Civic. That's a good time. That's a good sign when you're doing that.
Well, Coach, let's do 5 names here. All right.
Okay.
So I'm going to give you 5 names. Just give me a quick 5-10 second answer about each guy. First one, Steve Davis.
Steve Davis was one of those guys I walked into a good situation. He's a farmer from North Dakota. And the first time I saw him, I said to myself, what does this guy know about football? But he turned out to be a savant. So that was one of the things that helped 27-year-old Danny Kaemingk figure it out. So he's one of my buddies. I love him.
Randy Parsons.
Old school, tough. His group of guys, he was our O-line, D-line guy. His group of guys are always the guys who got better the most, who progressed the most as the season progressed. I don't know if that makes any sense. He ran the same 4 drills every day, but by the end of the year, our offense and defensive line was rock solid.
Hey, I like a coach like that. That's the way that I would love to play.
He's a good man.
A name that's already been brought up once, Greg Dykstra.
Well, Greggy is on my staff now, and I never miss an opportunity to tell him that deep ball that he threw to Robbie to get us down there against Colfax was the ugliest duck I have ever seen in the history of mankind. It was no surprise to me that he went to Western and did wonderful things, because he did. He played receiver for us his sophomore year. I will be honest with you, when he would drop back on a 3rd down, part of me was going, I'm hoping everybody's covered. Because then Greggy would take off running, and then when he did that, good things happened. A great athlete who's even a better man. So love that kid.
Now, was he the one that had that crazy catch for Western?
You got me. You're gonna have to help me out.
It was on Sports Center top 10 for a long time.
That was in the early 90s.
Oh, I thought that was late 90s.
Yeah, no, that was in 93. It won for the ESPYs. It won like play of the year, but it was in the early 90s. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Number 4 on the list, Darren Hirspink.
Oh, dude, solid as a rock. He's one of those kids that we built a defense around him. Imagine this: if you're playing center for any other team, you walk up to the front, and right across from you at nose guard is this 6'4", 260-pound athlete, because that's what he was. He was an athlete. Yeah. I remember him coming to me his junior year asking me if I thought he should still keep playing basketball. And I don't know what you guys think about that, but I think if you're an athlete, especially at the 1A level, play everything that you can. And my advice to him was, there's nothing more than an offensive line guy from college is going to want to see than to come watch you play basketball and watch your feet. So Darren would be right there in the front. We'd put little DJ Main Drink right behind him, and we would run A-gap stunts all day long. We'd run that Buddy Ryan bear, and that was back in the day, Tyler, when we were bringing that inside backer.
Yeah.
We had Lincoln and we had Clint at the corners, but it was all built around what Hirspink could do in the middle. Nobody could do anything there. So, and there's a kid who goes to Portland, did a heck of a job of kind of marketing himself, and then he gets a chance with the Dolphins. He's there with Jake Long from Michigan, and then he goes and plays in BC for a few years. I mean, he's accomplished more than any other Lynden Christian football player by far. So, yeah, what more can you say for a guy than you built a defense around him? So,
yeah.
The last one, and I'm going to do it with a little extra pizzazz here. Bob Ames. He needs his water, Tyler.
Yeah.
Well, okay. It's amazing how our relationships develops as you go against each other for all these years. Because really, I got to tell you, those first 10 years, I don't think either one of us liked the other one at all. And so we got to the point where we were really friendly before the game, but then wanting to crush each other the whole time, to the point where it was just an appreciation all the way around, to the point where he gives me a call and says, hey, why don't you and your wife and Lep and Coach Lep and his wife, why don't you guys all come to my place this summer and let's have a barbecue? And we sit around and we tell old war stories and all about all our teams. And I love that guy. I do. The thing about him is those kids played for him, right? I mean, you've heard the line, run through a wall. Those kids played for Bob. I mean, they would run through a wall. And I know, you can't badmouth your team in this community, like say, yeah, we're not very good, without anybody saying the next line will be, oh, you're just like Ames. Because that's what Tyler, you've had to talk to him. You know what he's like, man.
Yeah.
He has had some of the best one-liners. I was listening. He had one of his best teams. I don't know who was on that team. It was 2006, Tyler. Was that a really good team for them?
Yeah, they went 14-0, won.
Yeah, okay. So it's semifinals, and somebody puts a mic in his face. And they go, what do you expect? He goes, lots of punts and kickoff returns. And I'm like, you dog. And he goes out and waxes him by 50. But as much as I respect him as a tactician, as much as I respect his football acumen, I respect him as a human being as much, but easily, because he's just one of my favorite people on the planet. I love him. I'm thrilled that our relationship through the years just got to the point. I mean, by the end of it, we had a couple games where I walk across the field. Those last 4 or 5 games were just toe-to-toers. I mean, we just got after it. And 2 of those 4 games, we ran out of bounds on his side, and we ran into him, right? Knocked him over. And then I walk over, and the last time I think his glasses were kind of like this. And he says, "Yeah, you got me again, coach." I'm like, dude, I'm sorry, but yeah, and then it's like, how are you? How is your family? I mean, we all know each other's families, and that's a really comfortable and awesome thing that we have up there with Nooksack and Baker and Meridian and Lynden Christian. I mean, to have 4 coaches, I know Rob's moved on and now Bob has stepped aside, but it's one of the things really that I missed when I retired for a couple years. You don't really miss, I mean, I love the X's and O's, but you miss people. And he's one of those people I really missed, among a lot of others. But I have a lot of respect for Coach Ames. He's one of my faves.
That's awesome, Coach. I love hearing stories about that. So I got a little game for you that I call the Dirty Dozen.
Go.
There are 12 players that you've coached that have been named. No, that have been named All-State on the defensive side of the ball. Everyone talks about your defense. This is Associated Press All-State. This is not like going to the All-State game or anything like that. So,
all right.
3 of them were honorable mentions, so I'm including those in there. So I'm just gonna let you rattle them off like I know you can.
Oh yeah, I'm rattling these off. Here we go. Brian Mathias.
Yeah.
Ryan Deepice.
Yeah.
Okay. Darren Heerspink.
Yeah.
Okay. My wife needs me to say Dylan Kaemingk right here.
Right.
Okay, good. Now, hey, guess what? I can sleep in the house tonight. Okay, so I got 4.
Yeah.
Did Kevin Coy make it?
Yeah.
Okay. Now he should have, but I don't know if he did. Did Mark Holloman make it?
Yes, he did.
Okay. Did Kevin Coy make it?
Oh yeah, you just said Kevin Coy.
Okay, so I got 6 and 12. Oh,
yeah,
my class with the 7th graders, that's really good, man. We're at 50%.
Yeah, you're rolling.
I've had a ton of really good players.
Yeah.
Did Will Faber make it?
Yeah.
Yeah, he should have.
Yeah.
Zach Sitma.
Right.
Okay. Had a few years we didn't play any defense there, Tyler. So
4 left?
4 left.
Yeah, only 4 left. Yeah.
Okay, I got to start going through the ones.
And they're all and coach, they're all kind of spread out. One early, one 8 years later, another one 5 years later, and then another one kind of recent. So they're all kind of spread out a little bit.
Well, that didn't help me at all, Tyler. I mean, come on. So it could be any of the 30 years I've coached. Is that what you're telling me?
2 defensive linemen, a linebacker, and a safety.
Defensive lineman. Did Jason Maindrink make it?
No, but he should have.
Oh gosh, he was a wrecker.
Yeah.
You said 2 defensive linemen that I haven't said.
Yeah.
This is going to get me in so much trouble with somebody.
Oh man, Coach Lepp already got. He had to name all of his 1,000-yard rushers.
Yeah, he told me that.
Yeah.
So I was. I don't know if you can tell, but I was really nervous when I came on air because I know what you guys do to people.
Right.
Let's see. Defensive linemen. 2 of them, you said.
1 from your first year.
Oh, that would be Lenson.
Right.
Oh yeah, Lenny was a dude.
Yeah.
You pull a tackle from Lenny, and he would chase down the running back from behind. He was all right. That helped me. That was good. That's 9 out of.
Another one that played on your state championship team.
So the '97 team, Nick Skolton.
Right.
How am I forgetting Nick Skolton?
I don't know.
He's right there with Heerspink. My goodness.
Sure. Yeah.
Oh. So now those are my 2D. Now what are the other positions?
Inside linebacker, safety. So the linebacker you've mentioned already today or earlier in the interview.
You're kidding me.
Yeah.
Wow. Long time ago or just recently?
In the interview?
No.
He played in the early 2000s.
Early 2000s. Oh, DJ.
Right.
Darren Maindring.
Right.
There has never been a player that could anticipate a snap count
I know.
better than DJ Maindring.
I think he was in the other huddle. I swear.
He would sit there and just tell the other quarterback that I'm coming for you, and you know I am.
Yeah.
That's what he would do.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I got one more. I'm feeling pretty good.
Yeah, and then a safety from a few years back. He was an honorable mention All-State.
How many years?
He was in your son's grade.
Dylan's grade?
Yeah.
Really? Okay,
Yeah.
so let's go through my secondary there. Jalen Apel.
Yes, right. You got them all.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, you helped me quite a bit. So
Well, hey, you said all the names.
So those are my 12 guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's always interesting. But, all deserving kids. Of course, and anybody you would get on air right now would come up with like 6 or 7 other kids that you would say, gotta be, right?
Oh,
but
yeah.
we've been blessed with some really nice defensive linemen. I mean, here's Spink we already talked about. Sip was just kind of a freak last year.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing I was most proud of him last year is, what would you do if you guys were offensive coordinators against a tackle that gets off the ball that quickly? Both of you were going, well, let's trap the sucker. And when Sip first came to us, he would almost run all the way to the goalpost before. I mean, teams would actually design knowing what he would do. And so as coaches, we were kind of like, he's so freakishly talented. Do we slow him down or do we let him go and hope we can cover it? Because when we let him go, he would make plays.
Right.
And so Royal just went at him with we show a highlight tape at the end of every year we bring the senior parents in, the seniors. I say 3 cool things about every senior that has nothing to do with football. And then while I do it, I show film. And the parents, I got to tell you guys, the parents just love this. Yeah. But the last one I showed of Sip was really kind of unremarkable. But what's remarkable about him is he was a real talented kid that took learning. And they tried to run a trap on him. And he crushed that guard and stuck him. And him and Faber drove that kid back. And I thought, I'm so proud of you that you took the time to learn. And, was like that. And how many kids can you put at defensive tackle, then put them out at wideout and throw it to them in the trips formation, right? Exactly, so, part of good coaching is having really good O's against their X's. And he was a really good O, let me tell you.
About the only level of play you even get a D tackle that goes out and plays receiver might be 8-man. It just doesn't happen very often, even at the 2B level. It just doesn't happen.
Well,
very often.
And we mentioned we go to Eastern every year, and we see Royal down there. But a lot of times, those Eastern coaches, they're checking out the 3As and they're checking out the 4As, and then they'll bring those individual kids will come in just to play. But when Sip was there, those guys were all like in my ear going, okay, who is he? Tell me about this kid, because his get off on the line was so impressive. And then, his leverage, I mean, he was just a great leverage kid. So, but man, Skolton was really good in his own way. Here Spink was freakishly athletic too. And then way back in the day, when you were pups, Matthias. Matthias on the 90. Oh, that was still when the Kingdom was the Kingdom.
Yeah, 93 team.
93 team.
Yeah.
He was in a 1A team. He was our only 2-way lineman. Wow. Imagine that, a 1A team. We only had one kid, because then Jason Maindrick was 300 pounds on the defensive side. Right. And Matthias and him were playing defensive tackle for us. So again, I sit in this seat talking to you guys, really cognizant of the blessing that I have had of the coaches I have coached with and the players I have had, because they have been really special.
Starting it off by saying you're the winningest coach. All right, you've had some guys help you along the way, huh?
Somebody sent me something the other day. It was, I think Tyler, it might have been on one of it was a blurb of some sort. It was on this day in whatever year, Dan Kaemingk beat Concrete and became the winningest coach of all time. Then I looked it up. It was like 30-something. I think it was Coach Van Hulsen, right?
Right, yeah.
So I don't know what it means, but they've been foolish enough to keep me around. But it's a cool community to coach in. It's still, if you guys have been to Lynden loves their basketball. But what Cramey did over there at Lynden and what we've been able to do periodically has kind of made people think, not bad at football either. So, the kids take some pride in that, and that's cool to see.
Well, the fact that Lynden is consistently one of the best 2A teams, and in the last few years, your guys' football name has really popped up on a lot of radars. And then there's the whole basketball stuff that goes on between both the boys and the girls. I get people all the time going, dude, what is going on in Lynden? Like, what the heck is going on up there? And I'm going, tell you what, man, I have I don't know. Like, you drive through Lynden and it's pretty quick. It's not. So the fact that there's a 2A and a 1A school doing the things that they have it's pretty remarkable.
And it also,
a lot about the student athletes, but it says a lot about the community because, as somebody who travels around the state, you don't have a program like that without great community support. It just doesn't happen.
No, and that's, Ryland, I'm glad you said that, because if you go watch any of our youth leagues here and the quality of the coaching in those youth leagues and the way those guys reach out to us and say, hey, what are you doing here? What are you doing there? There's a real commitment to the kids. There's a real commitment to playing it well. There's a real commitment to playing it the right way from the standpoint of sportsmanship. So, sometimes we get these kids, they come in and they are really well schooled in how to play football already. So again, another real blessing about being here. It really makes it fun.
Yeah, I think that's a huge thing that people don't understand. So last year I got to be an honorary coach for a day with with Bothell High School.
Bainter?
Yeah, Tom Bainter. And so I got to go behind the scenes with them and sit in their meetings and all these different things. And, the stuff that he did, in a coach's meeting didn't surprise me. Hey, when we go to punt team, is everybody healthy? Oh, no, this guy's kind of banged up. Okay, well, who's his backup? Do you have him ready to go? Yep, he's ready. And so he, all of that stuff, the preparation stuff was exactly what you would have expected. The thing that kind of blew me away was Bothell walks to their stadium because their school's at the top of the hill and Pop Keeney is down at the bottom of the hill.
Yes.
And so they walk down to a police escort, and their O-line coach is walking with this big duffel bag, and it's full of T-shirts. And what Coach Bainter is doing is when he sees a little kid along the side that doesn't have a Bothell shirt on, he goes and gives it to him. Yeah. And if the kid does have a Bothell shirt on, he goes and gives him some candy. And next, I look over and here's a woman standing out on her front porch, and she's standing out there, hey, coach. And what does he do? He runs over, gives her a kiss on the cheek. He's kissing babies. But it's the exact thing that people don't realize. All of those kids now, they want to be Bothell Cougars. They all want to be Bothell Cougars. And so, the other thing that he does is it seems like their coaches, as their kids move up, their coaches kind of come with them. And so you look at their freshman team, and a lot of those coaches have names of the players. And so they kind of, work them in, and it just, you see the community of it. And then you look at all of these other programs around the state, and I start thinking about it. Camas. You won't find too many better communities than the Camas community. And you just think about all of the programs that are consistently near the top. Mm-hmm. And every single one of them, I think about it, and I'm like, man, they've got a great community. They just do. From top to bottom. Football, you drive through these small towns, and they've got, go whoever on their windows and just everything. It's just so cool to see.
Well, I think, you opened the show by saying, okay, what's Friday night like for you? Well, football is such a cultural event for communities, right? I can't begin to tell you how many people have walked up to me and say, I just miss football on a Friday night, right? Because, let's be honest. Last year I'm coaching against Cascade Christian, and the big quarterback comes running at me, and, I still think I'm a young guy. So he comes at me, and he comes out of bounds. I'm going to hold him up. Well, he trucks me. He runs right over me. He's laying. I managed to turn and get a forearm in his throat. So I was pretty happy about that. And my wife is like, somebody says, hey, your husband fell down. And she's up there talking to people. She has no idea because of the community event that a football game is. Watch the people and the pride they have. And go to a Ferndale game sometime. What a great event. Go to a Baker game sometime. Those people love their programs, and to not have that every Friday night this fall, I think there's a certain loss there that we really can't measure that we've been kind of cheated out of. I mean, I think for me, I look at my kids and they're looking at me, and really my kids are to the point where they're kind of tired of adults telling them what's going to happen. They just want to strap it up and go. And that's what made the very limited amount of times that we were able to get out to the practice field so special this year. I mean, we just let them go and got some really fun practicing in. But it was weird because you're not really targeting a certain opponent, and you really don't know what you're targeting in the spring. And so I got to be honest with you, Coach Kaemingk let them go way harder than they usually do. I mean, it was like I should have blown the whistle here, and I had two of my best safeties going at each other, and I said, yeah, I kind of want to see how this turns out, So we missed the cultural event, Ryland. I think you're spot on that. And knowing Coach,
you know what I miss, Coach?
Yeah,
I
what?
miss the sounds. I miss the band. I miss the boo when there's a call that doesn't go their way. I miss we got spirit. Yes, we do. Wow, to the other side. And then the chants back. And I miss the cheerleaders. I mean, there's some really good cheer programs that at halftime, they do some phenomenal things. Shooting girls up into the air. And,
phenomenal.
And the bands that really put in the work that, I remember one year I was at Seahome, and I think it might have been homecoming. I can't remember exactly.
Okay.
But they had they made the shape of an anchor on the field, and they were playing old Nintendo themes. So they were playing Mike Tyson's Punch Out theme or something. You know what I mean?
You're talking my language here.
Well,
give me Bo Jackson in the Tecmo Bowl.
Yeah. And I think that's the stuff that I tweeted it out. I posted it one day, and I think that's the stuff. As much as I miss football and I miss talking to the coaches on the sidelines after the game, and all of this stuff, I was like, I don't know. I kind of miss the band as much as anybody. And I posted a picture of myself. This was a couple years ago. I was down at a game. It was a semifinal game, I believe, down in Vancouver. And I like anytime there's something cool to take a picture with, I like to do it. So if there's a player that's just been phenomenal or whatever, I'll take a picture with the kid just because I'm such a football junkie.
Mm-hmm.
And so Union High School has just the craziest band, and they have a guitar player. And what did I do? I went up in the stands and got a picture with the guitar player one time. And when I posted that, people were just like, dude, you're losing it. You are losing it right now. And I was like, I am seriously losing it. The first couple of weeks, Coach, it was almost like I just didn't even realize it. You know what I mean?
No.
And then you see these games on ESPN and you're like, oh man. And then I realized I was like, I can't watch them. I can't watch them because I'm not invested in, Omaha North versus Creighton Prep. I'm just not invested in it. I just don't care, and it kind of hurt me to even watch that stuff. And then, I would say probably after September, it just became whatever, I get to fall off. It's kind of fun. I've been doing some things I wouldn't normally get to do, even though, the pandemic has made it tough, but I'm having more, I've got a little VCR now where I'm taking old VHS tapes and putting them onto DVD. And, I've got the 2004 state championship team. They sent me all their stuff. And
nice.
So, I'm still watching football. It's all just stuff I've seen before.
Yeah. It's just, it's hard to really totally sell yourself into the effort when it's so hard to know, what's the end game here. I think that's the hard thing. That's what I notice about our kids is they're like, yeah, coach, I don't know. But I guess, Ryland, my question would be, are you surprised by missing any of those things?
I honestly, I would say August, I would have thought I would miss it more than I do,
Okay.
Yeah. And I think maybe it's just, after the first month of it, I just kind of gave up in a way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But then every now and then, something pops up on Facebook or wherever, and I'm like, oh man, that school had a great band. And next thing you know, I'm looking online trying to find videos that I had taken of bands, because I do that sometimes. If a band is playing a song that no other band plays, I'll just be like, hold on, I got to go get this band playing this song.
Right.
Why are they playing this song? So I don't know. It's weird. I think it didn't hit me until a couple of days ago that this was championship weekend. And I think that one That one really hurt because I haven't had anything to complain about, with like the state championship sites. So I,
Yeah,
I got a little
I've
hot
heard-
water
I've
last
heard
year
that
for some of that stuff. But
yeah.
I mean, I don't know. It's weird. I'm just excited to, whatever it takes. Let's get this vaccine. Let's do whatever it
No
is we got to
question.
do. And, hopefully this time next year, we're interviewing you, as a lead into the state championship game. How about that? You know what I mean?
That would be beautiful. That would be beautiful. That's a lot of work before I get to that. But, if we can just fast forward to, all
Now,
those
Coach,
games that I have to be nervous about.
one thing Tyler and I did, I don't know if you happened to see it. We did a Lynden Christian all-decade team.
I've heard about this team. Okay. So,
okay. Well, now we want to know what you heard because that almost makes it sound like you heard some bad stuff. And if it's bad, it was all Tyler.
No, there was, if it's the last decade, it would really be heavy last few years kids, right?
And it was, yeah.
Yeah, so when you look at that, and the really interesting thing to me is when you guys look at me, you're going, well, he's just been a fixture at LC for all this time. But the thing is, I took 2 years off right in the middle of all that. So when I'd see a kid on there, I'd go, wow, I really didn't coach him. So I don't really know a lot about him. He might have played when he was a sophomore, but he must have really blossomed by the time he was a senior, right?
Yeah.
So, it was pretty, from what I understand, I just off the top of my head, I don't really remember it, but it was not surprising that it was the last few years that was most of the kids dominated that.
Tyler, do you remember who so one of the things we did, Coach, is it was a first team and a second team, and then we did awards. Tyler, do you remember who the awards were that we gave out?
Off the top of my head, I believe it was lineman of the year or lineman of the decade. I think was Dylan.
Yeah.
I think
he told me that.
I think the defensive player of the decade, I think was Sipma. I think offensive player might have been Corkle, and then the overall player was Trajan Scouten.
Was it? Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
You can't argue with any of them. You really can't.
Yeah.
Trajan's a fantastic story because there's a kid who just worked and worked and worked. And, last year we would run some sets where we would bring Dykstra in to run some different looks, right? And, you replace a tackle, that's one thing. You replace a safety, it's one thing. But everybody in the stands, even if you don't know anything about football, you know that you just replaced your quarterback. And there could not have been a kid who handled all of that better than Trajan Scouten. He was just the best teammate that I've ever seen. And so you look at all the little ingredients last year for why that team was the team it was. You got a kid like Levi Cordice who carried the ball for 1,200 yards his junior year, who goes to the blocking back and decides he's going to carry the ball for 200 yards and say, Coach, yeah, I'll do that. You get Trajan Scouten that says, yeah, if we need to play Logan certain situations, I'll do that. That team was full of those kind of kids. So, how do you beat a bunch of teams that are undefeated? I tell my kids all the time, first of all, let's be honest. You got to be talented to get to the playoffs, okay? You got to work to get to the playoffs. But then what really separates you is how you legitimately treat each other. And the last 3-4 years, guys, it's always fun to go to practice. But the last 3 or 4 years, to watch how these young 16, 17, 18-year-old boys, let's all remember what we were like when we were 16, 17, and 18, for them actually to kind of take a step back from what they want and put what the team wants in front of it. You can coach, you can talk about that all you want, but for kids to really embrace it and do it, pretty impressed with those guys. And again, it's very humbling and it's a real blessing to me. I sit in this chair and look at you and go, man, I got good kids and I got a good staff and I work in a great community. And it's fun to be a part of it, really. And so I don't know what the future is for me, but to be part of what the last few years have been has just been such an honor and such a treat. It's been just great.
Now, Tyler, one thing I got to ask you here is looking at your map.
Yeah.
There's 2 of them up there, but why are they so far apart?
Yeah, I didn't make the map.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
But
so point to it. Tell me where Lynden Christian is.
Right there. Right there.
What is that? A little lighter blue?
Yeah, it must be the powder blue of the. See, that's why I got my blue hat on, Coach.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I like the powder blue. I don't
Yeah.
know. I mean, I'm gonna let you keep your map, but I don't know, man.
Yeah. Yeah, and it should be right about there. It
Yeah,
should be a little
probably.
further north, but that's all right.
Well, it should probably
Probably.
be a little closer to that other one.
Yeah, they should. Yeah, they'd be right next to.
Well,
each
we'd
other.
be right, almost right on top of each other.
Yeah,
Right?
pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just make sure
No.
the green one's on top of the blue one.
You know,
Uh,
Tyler, I teach geography, and I'm a little disappointed with your map. So maybe post Zoom call, we can maybe have a conversation.
I know you got Mount Baker down here, and down by Skagit County. And
Yeah, if I go that direction, I'm never getting to LEP. I'm telling you, I'm going to be playing somebody else. Burlington looks like they're on the schedule.
Yeah, right.
Tyler, I think the one that might be the most accurate is probably Blaine.
Yeah,
He's one of them all.
right.
Pretty hard to screw that one up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and even that one could go a little further north.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tyler, do you remember who the all-decade restaurant was that we picked for Lynden Christian?
Oh boy.
One of the things, Coach, as you can tell, I'm a big guy. And so we always talk about what's the best food around near the school. And all I remember is Lynden we didn't come up with much that was good in Lynden.
Really?
Now, I've been to Grant's Burgers, and I wasn't a huge fan. I'm a burger connoisseur, if you will. So if you were going out to one meal in Lynden, where would it be?
So I'm in the city limits?
I mean, if it's outside the city limits, that's fine. It's got to be Lynden, though.
Has to have a Lynden address.
How about that?
I'm going to cheat. Okay. If you go down towards Bob Ames, there's a little place there's a 4-way corner there, and the Pole Road goes either way. But right before it, there's a little place called Rusty Wagon. Okay. You probably never heard of Rusty Wagon. But you go in there and you order, I believe it might be the burger itself might be called the Rusty Wagon. So get this, it's your standard cheeseburger, but then they put onion rings on top of the cheeseburger, and then they put barbecue sauce on that, and then they bring that thing out and they bring aja, and you can dip that into that on top of everything else. And that, got to be honest with you, that's one of the best burgers I've eaten in a while. So it's the Rusty Wagon right there. Now, if I'm in the city limits, Fairway Cafe, just had it 2 days ago, Fairway Special.
Yeah.
You get your salad, you get your fries with it, and it's a big old burger. You will not be disappointed if you get the Fairway Special. So if I'm in the limits, there you go. But down the Pole Road, the Rusty Wagon's not too bad. And of course, we got a Bob's here, bit of a chain, but we got a Bob's burger. Yeah. Bob's got a good bacon burger there that,
I like I think it's called the Ranch Burger is what they have. I like. Yeah.
Ryland, you and I are cut out of the same cloth. I'm a burger guy too. So
I actually run a burger social media account where as I travel around the state, I'll take pictures of the food. And what I do is I give emojis, like a thumbs up or a thumbs down, or, a smiley face if it's good, or like if it's really good, and so I've got them from Lynden all the way down to Vancouver, all the way east to Spokane, all the way down into the Tri-Cities.
So you get one. So, hey, you get one burger in all of that area. You get one. What are you taking?
In all of the state of Washington?
Yeah, all that you said. You can go Vancouver.
I'm going to Loretta's Northwesterner in South Park, Seattle.
Okay.
And all people at home watching this, I will throw up a picture right now of the burger that I got from Loretta's Northwesterner. It's a 2-patty, kind of thin patties, and oh baby, is it good. It is. The only bad thing about Loretta's Northwesterner, it is like impossible to get to, because it's in like the south part of Seattle, and it's kind of an industrial area. So you got to there's no straight shot to it, but it is.
Kind of develop an appetite just getting there, I suppose. Is that what you're saying to me?
I mean, I'm getting little just thinking about
dude.
it. Like,
dude, you're starting to foam at the mouth over there.
Yeah, I know.
All right, that's good to know, because I'm a burger guy, so I'm a fan of
oh my goodness, Boomers. I like Boomers. Mm-hmm. I love their waffle fries. I think they got the best waffle fries in the state. The one that everybody tells me I got to go to up north of me is like Skagit Valley Burgers or something like that. That's the one that I've heard the most of. It's over by Cedro Woolley. That one, I love the Big Scoop in Mount Vernon. I don't know if you've ever been there before.
Yes.
Oh man, so quick story here. 2 years ago, was it, Tyler, when I came up for that Meridian Nooksack game?
Yeah, 3 years ago now.
3 years ago now,
Yeah.
when Bauman and Burkett were seniors,
Bauman
I
and
came
Burkett.
up for a Nooksack game.
I'm starting to shake over here. So, I'm just kind of, for what I had to deal with.
Meridian.
4 times in 1 year, I had to deal with those guys.
Well, when the game ended, I was with Jake Heaps and I were up there.
Okay.
And as soon as the game ended, we say hi to some people and we're walking back to the car. And I said to Jake, I said, "Hey, how fast do you think you can get to Mount Vernon?" And he goes, "I don't know why." And I said, "Because Big Scoop closes in like 25 minutes." And he goes,
Radiant to Mount Vernon in 25.
Well, so I pulled it up on my phone and it said like 40. And he goes, "We'll get there. Don't worry about it." And sure enough, we walked in with like 2 minutes to spare because I had to get a birthday cake shake. Their birthday cake shake is unbelievable.
Yes.
I mean, it is unbelievable. Well, Coach, we just hit an hour. And the
Beautiful.
last thing we like to do before we go is we like to ask, and this is an interesting question because I'm going to word it in a way that I think will help maybe help dance around one thing.
Well, I'm going to preface this really quickly by saying he ends every interview with this question, Coach.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm ready.
I'm just letting you know.
But what I want to do is I want to try to avoid the most obvious one.
Okay.
So
I think I might know where you're going, but hey, go ahead.
So you've coached for quite a few years. You've, like you said, you took a couple of years off and now you've been back for a while. If you could go back and coach one game that you've played or coached again, which one would it be? And let's keep Elma out of it.
You know what? I would, I think my second year, so I was 28 years old. We were still cross town with Lynden, right?
Oh man.
And guys, I got to tell you, Lynden came to our place. They got us the second game of the year, and we had them at our place. And this was for the league championship, right? And you want to talk about a community event, right? I mean, you turn around and there are people everywhere. And we're, third quarter, and some games just kind of roll your way and some things were going our way. And David Cowan's coming down the line and he has not pitched this ball on this option all year long. He has not pitched. And I guarantee you, Lynden had said, he ain't pitching. He never does. So they don't even worry about the pitchback, who just happens to be one of the best players we've ever had here in Greg Terpstra.
Right.
And he stops, and I think Greg is the most shocked human in the whole place. This ball is coming toward him, and he gets that thing, and down the opposite sidelines, there he goes. And he scores, and KVOS is there, and they pan him scoring with his arm in the air, and then they pan the crowd. And the crowd is just going nuts. And that environment, I mean, I've had the opportunity to coach a ton of games, but that's one that I look back at and go, man, that was a really fun game to be a part of, just because of the community event. And I think to a certain degree, since Lynden went 2A and got bigger, that's just not a game we play anymore. And it's a really fun memory for all of us. And of course, Kurt's on the other side. I mean, that was fun. There was an angle to that. The only other game that even rivaled that from the standpoint of crowd size, when Meridian came to our place one year and we were out there for stretching and the place was packed already. I mean, we were doing jumping jacks to a full stadium full of people. That's just a small community event that not everybody gets a chance to do. And so those are a couple of them that I go, wow, pretty fun thing to be a part of. And I think sometimes you're pretty dumb to not realize just what a special thing that you are able just to be a piece of. And so I look back at it. Whenever this ends for me, I just feel so blessed to have been able to do it, because I love the game. But it's like I said, when I came back, it was just I missed kids. I missed everybody. I missed Lep even. I even missed Coach Lepper of all the crazy things, right? Who could miss Lepper,
Yeah.
right? But I missed the chain crews. I mean, we got 3 of the coolest chain crews in Whatcom County at Nooksack, Baker, and Meridian. Those Meridian guys are my dudes. I love those guys.
They've been there forever. Yeah.
I missed the refs. I missed the other coaches. I missed the kids. I remember the last year I was retired, I couldn't find a place to be. My wife didn't want to sit by me. I was up in the booth. I couldn't see anything. I finally found myself on the sidelines, and kids were coming up to me. And I'm going, what am I, an idiot? I get a chance to actually have a real important part in the lives of these young kids. Because, guys, if you teach a kid how to tackle, suddenly you can tell them about almost anything because they'll listen to you. And that's the special conduit that a football coach gets a chance to do. You get to be a part of these kids' lives. And whenever this glorious career of mine ends, it'll be the people that I'll miss the most. I mean, writing out play cards and standing in the rain and, all that. No, but people. It's a really cool sport to be part of it. And if you want to be a part of it as a high school young man, you can be a part of it. We ain't cutting you. Come out and play. And so I'm the luckiest guy around, dude. I got to be honest with you. It's been so fun. But that Lynden game, when Terp scores and they pan the crowd, and that Meridian game at home, really fun games to be a part of.
You know what, Tyler? I think that's the first time that we've asked a coach that question, and he actually talked about a game. I assumed you guys won that game.
Yes, we won the game.
I think, Tyler, that's got to be the first time that.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting how he took it and answered it because every other coach hears it and says, if I could coach another game again, this is what I would do differently, and maybe we wouldn't lose. And I love your positivity, Coach, because you're absolutely right, because you could say, especially that year, that the 2 best 1A teams in the state were a few miles apart from each other.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It was unbelievable.
No question. It was so cool. It was such a fun thing to be a part of. Losses, I don't go back to losses. I mean, you know what? I'm really good at going on to the next day. Sometimes I feel bad for the kids because if you're a senior and that's your last game, right? But a coach is always so forward thinking. I've done this long enough. I got all these kids coming up to me and go, here's my son. He's 1 year old, Coach. He's going to play for you someday. And I'm like, not unless I'm in a walker, that ain't going to happen. But I'm always like, what's next year? What's next year? What's next year? So if you have a particularly bitter end to a senior year, those kids it lives with them a little bit, right? They hang on to that a little bit. But losses, the Royal game last year, it was a really fun high school environment. Second guessing yourself, what good does it do? I got to go forward. So to me, it's like looking back at all those real precious moments that you're able to be a part of. I mean, the Baker game at Baker last couple of years have been just tremendous opportunities and things to do, and you'd love to do those again. So we've just been kind of fortunate to get a few more W's than L's, and that's been the way it is. But it's just surrounding yourself with fantastic people and getting to be in the middle of it.
Coach, we talked about this years ago, and it's a great story if you could share it really quickly, that the next season in 1992, you guys had that 3-way, you all win the league at the same time. You're going to play one of those weird mini playoff games against each other at Civic. You guys came out on the short end of the stick, but after that game, what happened?
Well, it wasn't an incredibly talented group of young kids, but it was a bunch of kids who just played the game for all the right reasons. They just loved the game for the game itself. And so every game that we won that year, it was a year that we got Meridian, Lynden got us, and Meridian got Lynden.
Right.
So we all went to Civic, and we get there, and one team's going to survive. One team's going to survive. So you got to play the first game. And whoever wins the first game, they're in, and the loser's got to play the second game. So we get there, and we lose the first one, okay? I think to Meridian. And it was weird because I think we both showed up in our white jerseys.
Right.
It was a mix-up, and we ended up winning. We had to wear pennies for
Yeah.
this game to decide if we're going to make the playoffs. And my tight end, Robbie Bauma, is going to score, and Meridian's kid grabs him by his penny and drags him down. And I'm just like, oh. And so then we played Lynden, and Lynden gets us. And I don't think that I have sobbed ever so much in a locker room as I did that night. And, you know, you try to identify that. And often it's things going on in your life or whatever it was, but there was nothing I could really pinpoint. And I could barely get through my talk with the kids at the end. Really bad. It was bad. And it was like, but then again, it's real, right? You love these kids. And then we get home and we all kind of slough off the bus and we're tired and we're dragging our stuff. And I'm sitting in the locker room, kind of just, feeling sorry for myself. And I walk out there and I come out the door and I go, why are the lights on the football field? And the seniors went out there and they hit the lights and they went out there and they just played in front of nobody for the sake of playing the game they loved. Because really, if you're a kid not going on to the next level, that's it. You're never going to play anything like that again. And they just wanted to kind of experience and drink it in one more time. And I stood on the top of the hill, Tyler, you know what Lynden Christian looks like there,
Yeah.
and just watched them, and then really started to realize why I had cried so much. Because it was a group of kids who truly, purely love the game for the reason that you should love the game. And it's really, as I look back at that team, it's still one of my favorite teams I've ever coached. And really, it's not a team that very many people know about, but it was a group of kids that they just all guts. It was. And so I think that kind of sums up the beauty of the game right there. Yeah. Playing it for the sake of the game. And if somebody's there to watch, great. If nobody's there to watch, great. Let's run into each other and let's get after it. So it's like one of my favorite moments when I write that book that no one will read. It'll be one of the chapters. How about that?
Well, don't worry, Coach. According to Tyler, nobody listens or watches this stuff, so nobody will read your book because they found it this way. How about that?
Yeah, you throw out Coach Kaemingk on. I mean, you're going to get at least one or two files. Well, yeah, no, probably not. You're not going to.
We'll see.
My wife won't watch, so there you go.
Well, Tyler, you got anything else?
No, that's it. I just want to thank you, Coach, over the years for helping me out doing what I do and being so gracious with your time. And it's so much fun for me being such a fan of just Whatcom County football. I'd rather talk to you than, Bill Belichick. You guys are the ones that inspire me. And I'll never forget the first time I met you. It was before you guys were playing at Baker. I was the PA announcer. You just came off winning a state championship, and I just came up to get your starting lineup.
Okay.
In the pregame, and I was like, "Holy cow, that's Coach Kaemingk." And I'm looking up at you. I had just graduated high school, and I said, "Coach Kaemingk, how does it feel to be a state champion?" And you kind of looked at me, and because it was kind of a rough year the next year, and you go,
Yeah.
Well, that felt pretty good. And then you gave me your starters, and getting to know you over years has been great. So just thank you so much for everything.
Tyler, you do so much for I don't think you know how much these kids love reading the stuff you kick out. I mean, the 100 top kids, those kids hang on every one of them, and they're in the weight room going, I can't believe I'm 92, something like that, and
Yeah.
And then even these video games that you did, kids would show up in the weight room. I go, there's no way I'm giving up a deep ball to Meridian in that situation, like that. But, you do a lot to make it really more enjoyable. So I appreciate you for that. And Ryland, I hadn't really got to meet you before, but this has been a really fun hour, my friend. It was really good talking to you.
Well, Tyler, Lynden Christian, was their home stadium? Was that Ohio State?
Yeah, on the video game, it was, you guys played in the Horseshoe.
Yeah,
the Horseshoe.
You guys had the best stadium of anybody in the county. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah, that was good. No, it was very cool. So I really appreciate it, guys. This was fun.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun. Well, tell you what, Tyler Anderson, WhatcomPreps.com. Tyler, normally I would promote the virtual season, but
it's over.
So what do you got going on at Whatcom Preps right now? Is it just on this day? And that's got to be ending here soon.
Yeah, that's over with too. And I've been posting because I got to give love to the offensive linemen because they never get love because I'm kind of a stats guy. There's no stats for offensive line, so I've been posting every year since 1975 all the all league first team selections that were offensive linemen. So LC is going to get a big run of them here pretty soon.
Yeah, that's the engine, Tyler.
That's right. That's right.
Well, Tyler, you're speaking to my heart with the O-line stuff. Coach, you're speaking to stop my heart with the burger stuff.
Yeah.
So I think we wrap it up right here. WhatcomPreps.com. Tyler Anderson. I am Ryland Spencer from CascadiaPreps.com. Coach Dan Kaemingk, thank you for your time.
You bet. Thanks, guys.